Hello, we're John and Elizabeth.
Hello.
We're sat on board Corrick. Sunshine, blue skies, very unlike Scotland. I hope you enjoy this episode. So, although we always said we never actually had a plan, we sort of did have a plan, which was to get up to Scotland. And actually, there's a palpable sense of relief of having got here. So we
Was it that bad?
so we left Peel on Sunday, then up to Bangor. A very short stopover in Bangor, a couple of days in Glenarm with some friends. Then
We managed to get into Belfast as well.
Managed-
That wasn't initially on our list.
It wasn't on our
but
list, but it was good fun.
Highly recommended.
And then came across the North Channel,
Yeah,
and it was
we were initially going to go and anchor at Lamlash. Then it just got really
the weather was all
wet,
over the
just
place. An occluded front went through, and actually we were going to end up motoring, so we motored to Campbelltown. And actually, I really liked Campbelltown.
Yeah, I wished I'd spent a bit longer.
But we then
exploring.
went to Lamlash, and now we're in Troon.
Lamlash was beautiful.
Beautiful.
Really beautiful.
And I have to say, Troon is winning the prize for the best showers so far.
And best marina, probably. I shouldn't really say that.
Where we left off last time was leaving Peel, and it was sunshine and blue skies, but as described, it had been foggy and was forecast to be foggy all that day. So we got out of the harbour, but we put up just the headsail. We decided not to put up the Spinnaker, just because neither of us like fog very much. Well, you probably can't see it, but it's all a bit grim up here, and the fog is sometimes between about 400 and maybe 1,000 yards. So we've gone to what we might describe as fog routine. So we've got our nav lights on. We've got one of us on deck and absolutely in lookout mode, noting that anything that comes up is going to be a lot shorter. We've got our handheld VHF in the pocket, where it is, and we've also, you can just see it there, we've got our foghorn out of its locker, just below the step, and we've got that up there, and we are ready to make the sounds for a sailing vessel, which is one prolonged and two short blasts. Should we see somebody or AIS indicate that somebody's close to us. We're not going to do it all the way across the Irish Sea. Only when we think it might be useful. But I blimmin' hate fog. I really do. All in all, though, we had a really good sail to Bangor and arrived there, and we spotted two Contessa 32s inside the marina. It was nice to see them both. They both looked in good nick, which was good. But on departing Bangor, although the wind was relatively light, it was one of those situations where we were being pinned onto the pontoon, so the wind was right on the beam, so we decided to spring off. So I rigged a slip at the back end. We then rigged a forespring round that cleat, but in a way that it would drop off as we motored out, and then there was a slip rope on the bow, and this was the idea that we would be able to get the stern out away from the jetty without having to be on the jetty as we went. So it all worked a bit like this. Elizabeth was up on the bow. She let her rope go, and then what I did was I let the stern line then go, and then what we then did was just very, very, very gently motored against that forespring. In fact, I don't think we were motoring. We were just letting the natural wind from just behind the beam do that for a little while, just to see where the boat settled, and then there was probably just a tiny bit of a head motion, and as you can see there, the stern is gently canting out, the bow was well fendered, and we wanted to get ourselves a few degrees, maybe 20 degrees off, and then it was just a case of my stern line was gone, tiller over, and then a reasonable burst of a stern to to pull the boat back off the jetty. Now, because the prop pulls the stern to port, what we wanted to do is just get ourselves moving and then use that action there to swing the boat out. So I swung the tiller over to starboard about this point to use the prop walk to pull the bow off the jetty itself. If it had been much stronger than that, we would have probably had to use more revs and slightly longer line, but this works really well, and I particularly like that trick of having a line that will just basically fall off the cleat as you back off, because it stops the situation where you are having to let go a slip rope as the boat is accelerating astern, and if that gets stuck, then you are properly stuck. But once we were safely out of there, we started our heading out of Bangor. Wish we'd stayed a little bit longer in Bangor. It was lovely. Well, this is going to sound a bit perverse. First time we've actually had a deadline to meet people. We don't have any blinking wind as we drift across Belfast Loch. But on the upside, sun's out, arms are out.
You need to have some sun dilation.
We're in Belfast. We've just enjoyed the Titanic Museum, which is really rather spectacular, and behind us is HMS Caroline, and that allows me to pinpoint the fact that the last time that I was in Belfast was August 1977, and I know that because I visited HMS Caroline, and it was the day that Elvis died, so it'll be the 16th of August. Unfortunately, HMS Caroline's shut. Oh well. Well, I think this is going to be an interesting sail. The wind is absolutely dead behind us and light and going lighter, and the tide is sweeping round the North Channel from the north to the south. So we're having to steer a very strange angle in order to get any boat speed at all.
But it's going to be quite wet as well.
It might get quite wet, but we're off. That's us leaving Ireland. We can see Scotland. Glenarm will stay in our minds because one of the viewers of the YouTube channel very, very, very kindly delivered some local goodies.
Oh, that was so wonderful.
It was wonderful.
Well, I'm looking forward to having a bacon butty at lunchtime.
It'd be good.
Thank you.
And there in the distance is the Mull of Kintyre, so we can see Scotland. And we're going to have to be very, very, very backwards and forwards with the steering here. We're just going to have to steer for boat speed and just work out and just hope that the angle resolves itself. Well, we had the wind behind us, and to the southeast everything looked rather lovely, but behind us we could see these very heavy looking and rain bearing clouds, so we avoided putting the Spinnaker up, and even though we were motoring, I was a bit nervous about what was going to happen next. Well, what do you think about putting the Spinnaker up then? Glad we didn't do it.
Yeah, I am as well.
I thought it might go a bit wild. Doesn't look too horrendous now, but it's gone from no wind to 15-20 knots and in a completely different direction. Well, that was all very interesting. The occluded front went through and we held off putting the Spinnaker up because it looked unpredictable in the extreme, but it went through, the wind died, we held our nerve for a little while, and then the wind has now come in from the southeast-ish, and we've managed to get the Spinnaker up. The cloud base is much, much, much higher, so I'm confident that we won't have any unexpected surprises, and this feels quite nice, and we're doing a little bit under what we were doing motoring, but this is so much more pleasant. overall progress had been quite a bit slower than we'd hoped for, and although we were originally heading for Lamlash, we decided to divert to Campbelltown just because the angles were better and it was going to take quite a bit less time. But as we came up the bottom of Kilbrennan Sound, the wind started to die, but we hadn't done very much jibing of the Spinnaker, so took this as a bit of an opportunity. So we took the weight on the windward sheet. On the windward sheet. Elizabeth then just gently lowered the pole down very slightly. I gathered up the guy that was going to come on, as well as the headsail sheet, to make sure they were on top of the pole. I then moved myself back to the mast, tripped the working guy so that it was all held on the sheet, and then started to move the pole across. It's one of these things where when it's very light it can be very flappy, and things don't quite go as you expect, but because there wasn't much weight in anything, everything was okay. So I essentially swung the pole out, put the guy in, pushed it out, knocked the lazy guy and the lazy sheet off, clipped it in, and then Elizabeth was able to then top the pole and just get the pole in exactly the right position, and we could then rearrange everything. And as we begin to bring the guy in on the other side, it became obvious that I had very slightly rigged this, not quite as it should be, but it was light enough that that wasn't a crisis. And we carried on and made our way to Campbelltown.
Well, this one.
Well, we were bobbing along, and I was thinking, look, I'm not sure if the autopilot's working. And it didn't seem to be working because it wasn't being asked to do very much. We were sailing along, pretty much flat, calm seas.
Oh, it's gorgeous. The sun is shining.
10, 11 knots of breeze. Yep. No sea chopped up by motorboats or ferries, a la Solent. Yeah.
And we've seen a couple of seals.
A couple of seals.
Yeah, I thought there was
rocks
in the middle of the sea.
One of them I thought was a big rock. Yeah, and we started to meet people. So
we met an interesting couple that I don't know what type of boat it was.
It was an aero rig, one of very few in the world. And they set off about the same time as us and took a slightly different route. They seem to be going north a bit faster than us. Yeah, so we're heading off to Lamlash, and I hope it stays like this for a little while.
I'll be very happy if it does.
Northeasterly breeze, so it's still very slightly chilly, but sunshine, blue skies, steady winds. What's not to like? The sail from Campbelltown round to Lamlash was really rather lovely. It was one of those situations, gentle northerly breeze, so it wasn't completely warm, but because it was coming over the land, the sea state was negligible. We went really well round the south of Arran, north of Ailsa Craig, and as we came round to the southeast corner of Arran, you could see just exactly how beautiful it was. Got a good shot of Pladda light with a little rainbow apparently coming out, new characteristics for that. And as always in the Clyde, there was a whole pile of warships and helicopters running around, hunting some poor unsuspecting submarine, I know, no doubt. But then the wind went round into the northeast just at exactly the right time, and we had a really rather lovely beat up towards Holy Island. That carried us nearly all the way to the anchorage, and lovely though it was, it had all died by the time we arrived, and we picked up a anchorage just in the lee of Holy Island itself, watched a magnificent sunset, and had a good night's sleep all round. Well, we've just spent a very tranquil night at anchor off Holy Island, which is by Lamlash, off the coast of Arran. Arrived absolutely still, just gorgeous. Put the anchor down in about 5-6 meters of water, and then the wind blew us off, so with the depth underneath us has been about 10 or 11, but the anchor's sort of nicely bedded in 6. Two things that I did overnight, which gave a little bit of peace of mind, and I talked about this ages and ages ago. The unit here has an anchoring system, and it allows you to place the anchor, put a circle around it, set an alarm. The only downside of that is that the alarm is just horribly quiet. And what I was able to do was to, instead of buying the £153 external speaker and drilling holes, was I bought a £5 Bluetooth speaker and connected it. So you set this up with Bluetooth, and it is really difficult to find the UI for this, but if you go into home, and then you go into settings and this display, and then you scroll all the way down, inside the ability to Wi-Fi share, there's a Bluetooth share. Set up the Bluetooth, and at that point, and this is the thing that was tricky, and the reason I couldn't find it to start with was I was looking for a loudspeaker first of all, but if you slide that across, an additional menu comes up with Bluetooth and alarm volumes, but when you're not connected to anything on Bluetooth, that doesn't show up, so you have to be connected first and then it shows up. But that works really, really maybe too well. If I, for example, just show you, if I just reduce the chain length just to induce an alarm, and I've turned that down a little bit, but that is downstairs when we're sleeping, easily enough to wake anybody up, and that is properly helpful. It was a source of anxiety the first couple of times we anchored, when I wasn't sure if we did drag, would I hear the alarm, but now I can. And this has been on all night. It hasn't alarmed since we had an AIS contact around about midnight, so it holds on to the connection for about 7 or 8 hours. Oh, sorry, at least 7 or 8 hours, which is just dandy. What it is possible to do is there is a Raymarine app that you can get for iPhone or Android, and so long as nothing else is connected, you can bring that up and you get what they call screen mirroring, but it seems to me to be a lot more effective than screen mirroring, in that I can control the chart plotter display from my phone. What that means is that I can be lying in my bunk, I can hear an alarm, I can then look at the phone to see what the alarm is. If it's a dangerous AIS contact, I can have a look at it and maybe make an assessment from my bunk. If it's anchor dragging, but it looks as if we have only just got to the edge or something like that, I can have a look at it, or I can make a decision to get out of my bunk and have a good look. But it's hugely versatile, and much more than I expected. I didn't expect to be able to connect the Bluetooth speaker. I wasn't expecting the Raymarine app, and these things are a little bit hidden, and certainly when I tried to query these on various Raymarine forums, I didn't get a huge amount of feedback. Maybe I was asking the wrong question, but maybe not many people know about it. Hopefully after this a few people do.
Lamlash to Troon is about 15 miles, and we went through that really, really quickly on a brisk northeasterly breeze. It was absolutely lovely.
Well, we've been on the go now for very nearly 6 weeks, not quite, very nearly 6 weeks, and we've done about 900 and a bit miles, and we have gone from Portsmouth to Troon. And
I think my concern is that we're way ahead of ourselves.
Well, no, I don't. I think we need to decide how fast we're going to go from here. So my feeling is that this is almost the beginning of the next stage. This is almost like the first bit was a delivery trip to get here, if you like. Admittedly, with some very good bits in it, but maybe this was the beginning of the... Sorry, this was the end of the beginning. And the next little bit will be exploring the Inner Clyde.
Yeah, I'm very excited. We had a quick look at the map today, and there's so many places to explore.
Map or chart?
Sorry, chart.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Thank you very much for watching.
Yeah, thank you.